It's a bit dusty, that one.
The better your questions, the better the answers.
I've got some bloody good questions, mate.
The less you ask about me, the better it is for you.
I can dig that.
I'm the least important
I can dig that.
thing about an interview that we can do with each other.
You're a vessel for communicating a unique perspective.
That sounds good.
I understand.
Yeah, just a lot of people, they always like want to know who you're from, where you're from, like how did you get into it? Like
Yeah.
all of that. It's not the interesting stuff. Ask me the stuff that you really want to know about.
I'm going to. Don't
Cool.
worry. I'm not new to this. I've been
Well,
practice.
just give
had
you
a bit
a
of
little
practice.
clue about me as an interview partner. So,
Yeah. Okay. I really appreciate that. That's helpful, man.
so if you have holes in the story you're trying to package, ask me those questions.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks. That's really helpful. Are we ready to go, mate?
15 seconds if I can.
Oh, you got to balance that thing.
No, it's all balanced.
And I just, I don't want to be a mile away from. What was your name again? Sorry, mate.
Exiled surfer.
XL Surfer.
Exiled
Surfer. Right on. You strike me as perhaps an OG.
Yeah.
Sorry?
I hate that word, but
Yeah, no, I guess it's, well,
it's a two-edged sword.
yeah.
People like,
No.
it's-
And it comes with all its baggage, doesn't it?
comes with a lot of baggage.
Yeah,
A lot of baggage, a lot of expectations.
yeah. We're ready to go?
We are. Remember the point mic.
Yes, point the mic.
I can hold the mic if you want.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, no problem.
Just make sure you point it at you.
I'm used to it.
Right on. Okay. Or does that look weird? Maybe that looks a bit too weird. I should probably hold the
It
mic.
looks a bit weird.
Yeah, I'll hold the mic. No worries. All right. So just tell me what brings you here today. To start with.
To see friends, colleagues that I've worked with in the past, and new people that I want to meet.
Yeah.
And it's a really nice intersection between, so art and technology. So I mean, it's a lot. Not too many people have focused on the culture of Bitcoin. Everybody's always trying to explain it, yeah. And this is a much broader sort of program. So I'm here to support that.
Yeah, now that's precisely what's brought me here as well, actually. But when I was booking the tickets, there was the tickets were called pleb, super pleb, and I forget the other one. What?
E-pleb.
E-pleb. What are plebs and what's their role?
So pleb comes from the word plebeian, which is kind of like the Latin version of the proletariat, and plebs is kind of like just your average foot soldier person who's involved with crypto, not necessarily a developer, not necessarily somebody building a company, not necessarily a public figure. There's a lot of public figures in Bitcoin, podcasters and OGs and stuff like that. And the plebs are just like the average person that have developed their own culture about what their place is in this social construct that we've created.
Right. Okay. And so
it's a messaging, right? It's a messaging. It's like saying, okay, we're these people, we're not those people. Yeah.
And not all Bitcoiners are plebs, or Bitcoin plebs. It's a specific subgroup of Bitcoiners more broadly.
Well, so users.
Just generally,
users, people who identify with the culture, right? But like I said, they're not the people that are developing Bitcoin applications, or they might be running a miner, a solo miner. They might be using an Umbrel. They're people that are interested in experimenting with wallets. But I would say that plebs are more users who identify with the culture and the technology and the identity of being somebody who's into Bitcoin.
Yeah, okay. So While that's a very sort of specific way of thinking about Bitcoiners, how do you view Bitcoiners more broadly, I guess?
Well, man, people like to talk about the Bitcoin community, and I always say that there isn't a Bitcoin community. There's hundreds and thousands of Bitcoin communities. And each one of those communities thinks that they're the Bitcoiners, right? And you see that in social media and the wars that go on and the memetics and all of the tribal stuff that happens is in-group, out-group distinction, that Max Weber brought into sociology. And so, what do I think about people? What do I think about Germans? What do I think about owls? They're maybe, it's also diverse, right? I think what's unique about Bitcoin is that it's an opt-in social construct. Yeah. So in terms of economics, in terms of money, in terms of values and stuff, it's not something that is placed upon you. That's what fiat is, right? So fiat's not just money. Fiat means by decree, right? And so we born somewhere on the planet, and by decree, you're educated a certain way in Australia, and that's different from how it is that I'm educated in California, or somebody here's educated in Poland, right? And so it's also education and knowledge is so unequally distributed across cultures and nations, and particularly in terms of economics, right? And Bitcoin is something that you opt into, that you discover, that's not forced upon you. And I think that's what's interesting about it. It's a social consensus. And inside of that social consensus are a distributed, decentralized group of people that believe radically different things, but are unified by a choice to use a non-state currency to transact with each other. That has a lot of sets of values that go along with it. That is the history of the cypherpunks.
Yeah, okay. And Satoshi Nakamoto vanished, or it's assumed that it was a group of people or what have you. But talk to me a little bit about how his role, or her, or their role, the role of that character in this society has developed over the last decade, or how I think Bitcoin's been around for a little over a decade now.
So, 15 years, right? So Bitcoin was the latest attempt to provide an electronic, non-state issued money. And it's based on more than 30 years of computer research and privacy research, and it's a development. So when the white paper came out on the mailing list, on the cypherpunks mailing list, we all just sort of like tore it apart, right? It was pretty normal 15 years ago that pseudonyms online, right? Hacker culture and all of these things. It wasn't even an issue, right? It was just like a normal thing. And we were all arguing about the same things then that people are arguing about now. What are the benefits of it? What are the key definitions about it? Where are the problems where it's going to fail and whatever? And there's this very, very small group of highly intellectual nerds or people that are interested in sort of stuff. If you talk to anybody from that time, it's pretty clear that none of us thought that it would be where it is right now in 15 years, right? It's like, well, if you knew about Bitcoin then and you didn't buy in, most of us who've been around for a long time are pretty poor. I've been living on Bitcoin natively since basically 2013, and I had every opportunity, every step of the way to buy $1,000 worth of Bitcoin. I don't know how many millions of dollars of Bitcoin I've spent over those years because I just used it, right? So the role of this pseudonymous creator has grown and become much more mythic in the public debate than it was when it is that it happened, right? but it represents this key value of not putting the person forward, but the idea. Cypherpunks write code. On the back of my jacket at the bottom here, it says, "Cypherpunk future is now." Yeah? It's just not equally distributed, right? So, you know, people like myths, they like stories, they like narratives. That's one thing that Bitcoin has. And that pseudonymous creator plays a very, very large role in the validity of the software itself. Read the code, audit the code, use the code. Don't pay attention to Jesus. Don't pay attention to the Pope. Don't pay attention, you know, to the person. Pay attention to what it does. And that's a key cypherpunk value. Yeah.
So the role of Satoshi in this world is exactly how it was 15 years ago. Only there's more. Well, there's films being made about it. For example, there's been a lot of stuff in the news that this dude here is Satoshi. You might have seen a fellow Australian, Craig Wright.
Craig Wrong.
Craig Wrong. He's
Fake Toshi.
What? I've been trying to wrap my head around what his game plan is there. Have you got a theory?
Well, I think it's pretty clear that so I mean, Fake Toshi was involved with the culture from a very, very early point in time. Yeah, and I mean, he's a grifter. He's a grifter in the same way that Donald Trump is a grifter. He's the same way, you know, we have a lot of grifters. He's always been a grifter, and I don't know why it is anybody ever took him seriously. But I think it's pretty clear that the fork wars Craig used as a way to gain hashing power to try and brute force and derive the Genesis coin private keys.
You're referring to Bitcoin Cash, was it?
Well, so first was Bitcoin Cash, right? And then
Satoshi Vision is the other one.
Satoshi's Vision is a fork of Bitcoin Cash.
Right.
Right? And, I mean, you know, he's been grifting people all along, and there's well-known people that I worked with, John Matonis and Gavin Anderson, the chief scientist from the Bitcoin Foundation. I was the system administrator at the Bitcoin Foundation.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know why they believed him. You know, they got grifted. He's a hypnotist. What's his game? Fuck, I can't get my head around it. I could really care less. If Bitcoin can't survive Fake Toshi, if Bitcoin can't survive Bitcoiners, then the game theory was wrong. Is my point of view, right? So I mean, it's a game theoretical, setup, and you know what? Fuck, I don't know what his game was. I don't know. Fucking his mom didn't love him. What?
But it's a good point you bring up now, because most recently I read that I think Wall Street now has more Bitcoin than Satoshi's wallet. So there are new players entering.
As it should be.
Of course. However, you know, they're clearly distinct from other Bitcoiners.
Bitcoin's for everybody. Bitcoin's for enemies. That's the point. Nobody can control it. You know, people are like, okay, Wall Street is coming in now, and ETFs are coming in now. It was inevitable that would happen as something gets established as having some sort of value. So we're going to have to wait and see how it plays out over decades. If any one player, you know, can get control of the network in a way to crash it. And if it does happen that way, then our game theory was wrong, right? Do you catch my drift?
I do, and
so I'm not really worried about that. So I think that there's been enough discussion. People like Andreas Antonopoulos, you know, and others have explained years ago why it is that a 51% attack is not accomplishable. How It's what the system was designed for, right? Hash power, distributed, decentralized, everybody fighting over, competing with each other for this thing of value, and that's what it creates the security of the network, is people competing for it. It's a standing bounty. I always explain that Bitcoin is a standing bounty to fuck it. Skin in the game, right? There's the money there. Yeah, if you can control it, you can fuck it, but it's a golden goose that if you fuck it, everybody's fucked. So it's like mutually assured destruction for money.
Yeah.
And the consensus rule set is created in such a way to find that equilibrium. It postulates that there's an equilibrium, that nobody can actually accomplish that. And the more established that Bitcoin becomes, the more decentralized and distributed it becomes. There's jurisdictional arbitrage, right? There's stakeholder arbitrage. And so it's postulated that nobody can get control of it all, right? And if they do, and it fails, then back to the drawing board. And that's why the rest of the stuff that's happening in crypto, Bitcoin is not crypto, is what people say, is also contributing to decentralization, right? So we have Ethereum, we have Tron, we have Solana, we have 1,000 different chains, right? And none of it is controlled by the state. It's a huge economy. And the decentralization, the distribution, the threat model is this whole sector. Purists like to say, well, Bitcoin is the only one that does that, right? But I see it a little bit less pedantically. I see the overall non-state money issuance has forced technological change, has forced green energy technology, right? Now we have grid stabilization. We have a huge amount of revolution that's happening across society. It's a process. And people prefer to go like, okay, well, this is the end game. I'm not so sure that Bitcoin is the end game, you know? I'm not so sure that it's all right, but it's pretty cool right now, right? And then you can go into different currencies if you have different consensus rule sets that you want to participate in. And I think that's pretty awesome. And that's what the Bitcoin white paper unleashed and made possible. Yeah.
Everything okay? Yeah, no, that's interesting that you highlight some of these other, because there is maximalism in Bitcoin.
There's maximalism in Islam, there's maximalism in Christianity, there's maximalism in Judaism, in Hinduism, in nationalism, in gender. There's maximalism everywhere. It's a human trait, it's a human quality. It's not native to crypto or to Bitcoin.
But it's an awfully divisive subject within the Bitcoin online discourse, right?
And?
No,
And so is gender, and nationality, and religious belief.
So where do you sit on this topic? Because I have, in my work previous to this production, looked at a broader crypto economy. Shit coins, altcoins, meme coins, all the other fucking NFTs and all this crap. I've looked at all of it. And there is so many sub-tribes of individuals that clearly obviously have entered via Bitcoin, and I don't know, probably just gone all quiet on that and hold it silently while they fuck about in the markets, right? But and this arrived me at Degens.
Okay, you're throwing a lot of stuff around there.
Let me wind it up there. And so the Degens are playing an important role in the broader DeFi crypto economy, if you like. And Bitcoin is often the most vocal, are quite anti that behavior. Is that a fair statement?
The people that are the most vocal about this stuff are probably the least informed, the least technically capable, yeah, and the least honest of all the people that are involved with Bitcoin or crypto. That's what those people do. Their identity is paired with the interaction with people of dissent, rage, whatever. It's a personality type. Yeah. And again, that's a human quality. just happens that's to be the representation that you find in crypto or in Bitcoin. Yeah. Those people really, or that character type, has little to do with actually what goes on in the world. Yeah. Again, Bitcoin is for enemies. Bitcoin is for everybody. And the rest of crypto is for everybody. I love all of this stuff, man. I'm half punk, half hippie, half crypto anarchist, half, like all of these things. And I love the chaos. I love all of this unregulated, Wild West, uncontrolled behavior. And I think that everybody has a place in it. I think that NFTs has a place in it. I think that, degen trading has a place in it. I think that, ordinals and stamps and spam and all of these things, they all have a place in this unregulated market of ideas where people can make money based on it. It's a radically different thing than where we're standing. Go to Frankfurt, go to London, go to anywhere. Everything is regulated, what you can and can't do. And what Bitcoin unleashed is the permissionlessness of writing code and implementing it. The calculation that the world is so complex and so interlocked that you can't turn the internet off, and we just share this code, open source, and develop all this stuff, and there's literally nothing that governments can do other than adapt.
Yeah, see, I have a theory there, though, because you remember there's a number of countries working on CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, and I was trying to think from a government's perspective of how I would want to destroy something like Bitcoin. And I figured they might go about it by getting their hands on as much of it as possible and sending it to a burn address, right? Or, no, sorry, wait, that was not my theory.
There's hundreds of theories.
No, it was making the CBDC a lot more attractive to the end consumer, to the plebs in the street, than the Bitcoin that they hold, so that they'd hand it over in return of, so that they were able to, do you know what I mean?
Sure.
Do you have a theory of how that could go down? Because, I mean, at the end of the day, governments are shitloads more powerful than even united groups of individuals internationally using...
I disagree with that.
Oh, okay.
I think that we're far more powerful than our governments, and I think that we're far too scared of our governments. And if you look around, everything is pretty much on the edge. The paradigm is of the way the post-World War II paradigm of economics and social organization is collapsing around our ears. Yeah? And I think the thing that motivates me the most about being involved with this technology is a sense of desperation and fear that we will not have ways of organizing and transacting with each other in place when this all breaks down, right? So it's just clear that's coming.
Yeah, Plan B, they call it.
Yeah, and so no, I don't think that governments are as powerful and omnipresent and star, chamber conspiracy theory, global control. I think it's all just a group of individuals acting in their own self-interest, and collectively we have, what it is that's going on. Bitcoin, crypto, consensus rule sets, governance, tokens, all of these things are an alternative experimentation of how it is that we organize ourselves and how it is that we, transact with each other. And the technologies are both pointing out, this. We need privacy by default. Yeah, so all of the surveillance capitalism that we have, all of these things that are going on, that are enriching, rent-seeking behavior of extant capital. Yeah, it's not working for everybody. It's not working for a majority of the people on the planet, in any government, any country, any system, communism, socialism, capitalism, libertarianism, whatever it is you want. Capital has captured everything. And as a result of capital capturing everything, there's inefficiencies in the system, and the existence of Bitcoin points that out, and the rest of the technologies that are developing points out that inefficiency in the system. The dream is actually that the world works in the way that Bitcoin works. We actually do want governments, states, society to accept these technologies. So it's a fight. It's going on, right? And when you're in the middle of something, it's always difficult to see how far along you are on the trajectory. And when you look back in history, it's much clearer. So none of these things are fixed, right? But it's clear that we're in a conflicted, challenging time due to the shift in technology and shifts in power that the microprocessor revolution has brought along with it. And we're living through it. Yeah. I find it to be incredibly interesting and fascinating and encouraging.
It is. It really is. And I think while the technology has its effect on society or humanity, it works in both directions as well. And this is where we're seeing all these kind of, what I can only just, I've looked at so many wacky DeFi protocols or what have you, and smart contracts that do this, that, and the other, and this yield farming and all this stuff. And honestly,
points, intense. It's constantly a self-referential, challenging thing. It's constantly developing and changing and morphing. Yeah, that's what permissionlessness is.
Yeah, and it's deeply fascinating, but you literally, when you get into the weeds there, you've got to be a mathematician to really comprehend how these things function, right? There's definitely a barrier to entry in terms of how to really audit a smart contract, for example.
But there's a barrier to entry for any intellectual, endeavor.
What? Absolutely,
a barrier to entry, if you're into rockets.
Yeah, but I mean, usually you have a company that wants to create a beautiful user experience to make it really simple for the people to use the thing. You kind of have that in a distributed fashion, I guess.
Okay, so we'll go back ancient history. Okay, so I was born in 1963. I grew up with the internet. I went to university to get an email address. I've watched all of this. It was hell every step of the way. All of this electronic, using this stuff in UI, UX, and it's been hell every step of the way. But people grow up. Each successive generation grows up with a different understanding. That's a normalcy, right? 10, 20, 30 years from now, this will all look totally different. And people are working on all of this stuff all the time. I mean, it's improving all the time, but
when it comes to liquidity pools and all this staking and farming and stuff, it's just, there's a lot of young tech orientated young people getting attracted into this, and they're just like wizards on it.
Fuck yeah.
They
I'll give you another example. So I first started working in restaurants, and when I made my first big money as a teenager, I bought my parents a Sony Trinitron color TV with a remote control. Before that, you had to get up and change the channel. There were 13 channels, and you had to turn the dial, It was always arguing, who's going to get up to change the channel? I bring home the remote control TV answer that you wanted to have, but, I don't trade. Every time I think that the fundamental, value offering of Bitcoin or of other cryptos is clear for me that the price should be this, the market says the opposite. And I don't have the confidence to bet against myself even, because I'm not a risk taker in the sense of I'm not a gambler. There's plenty of people that are gamblers. We live in a world economy now where there's no jobs for young people. Technology is rationalizing away bakers, everything, yeah? I totally understand why people are degen trading, because the odds of making money are much higher than there is in buying a state-sanctioned lottery ticket, which is like 1 in 300 million, right? If you're on the latest points thing, you're on the latest meme coin, like whatever, you're more likely, you know, there's like hundreds of thousands of people that are living off of this now. And what that points out is a failure in society. That's where the finger should be pointed. Why can't I go to my baker, and the guy who's baking my roll and giving it to me in the morning is earning a living wage, right? And it's made from, you know, natural ingredients and whatever. And where's the community? Where's the human interaction, right? And so people are reacting to society in a state that it's in right now. We're in a globally networked, electronically collected hive mind, right? Where you know instantaneously something that's going on across the planet with the rest of the population. You know, it's a completely different world. And all of these technologies, whether it's financial or any transaction, you know, social media, all of these things, it's all just happening around us. You know?
Mate, that was fucking perfect. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Can you just stay put for 3 minutes? I will get some black shots, please. Just 3 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there was some great stuff in there, and I appreciate you being honest and open with me.
Well, so a lot of us talk like this amongst ourselves, right? And I can tell you that a very large portion of people that believed in this tech from the beginning and thought this was really going to change things have turned their back on it. Okay, they have money, they have freedom, whatever, but it's already not what it is that a lot of us expected it to be.
Well, exactly. The peer-to-peer cash was in the Satoshi paper, right?
There's numerous.
But right on the top of the paper there, it says what he was hoping for.
We have peer-to-peer cash. So what? We have fucking Tron. We have USDT on Tron, which is the majority of what people are using. More people use Litecoin to transact than use Bitcoin. It doesn't have to be Bitcoin. It's the way I see it.
Yeah, and I mean...
So we have peer-to-peer cash, non-state peer-to-peer cash, non-controlled, and it's forcing states to compete. CBDCs. Yeah, and there's a lot of disinformation about CBDCs out there, you know? There's a lot of informed people that actually want to break the monopoly that banks have. Like, so the CBDC programs here in Europe, the people that are behind it actually want to break the monopoly of the banks, and the banks are putting out all of this information because it threatens their monopoly. $3,000 limit and this all. There's so much misinformation about actually what European governments want to accomplish with the CBDC, you know?
Yeah.
So this has all been forced. This hand has been forced by Bitcoin. Yeah. Right?
It is interesting to hear all the the interplay of the various narratives and who's got what at stake with what chain or what group community, you know.
We're social animals.
Yeah, but, you know, again, these communities are birthed through transactional networks. So they're inherently, for me, I'm curious how the evolution of those relationships will unfold, given that they spurred from a decentralized transaction network, right? And that's something we won't realize for 30 years or until many generations pass. And obviously, you want relationships to be meaningful and genuine. And when you have a transactional network at its base, can you achieve that?
Those are philosophical questions that we
Nobody really knows.
Argue about, and everybody approaches them at the level of their own intellectual understanding or their own educational format, right? So, I mean, I think the simplest way that I can define sort of like this maximalism thing. People don't want to have, so like we have dollar hegemony on the planet right now, right? And nobody wants the dollar to be the hegemon. I don't want Bitcoin. There should not be one coin to rule them all. We have X amount of languages, X amount of currencies, X amount of alternatives across the planet. I don't want the world to run on Bitcoin. I'm a Bitcoiner, but I don't want the world to run on Bitcoin. What I want is to be able to move in and out of consensus rule sets permissionlessly and as frictionlessly as possible. If I have a need for Monero, then I use Monero. If I have a need for USDT on Tron, if I have need for the Giveth governance token or the Aragon DAO token or the fuck your mama meme coin or whatever, I want to be able to move my capital, my attention around as frictionlessly as possible. And you can't do that with one monolithic coin and one monolithic chain. And you shouldn't. Humans are not like that. We're all fighting against the hegemony of one God, one coin, all of these.
Yeah.
It just eats at my core the maximalist viewpoint. I feel just as it's just as much of a fiat demand as the state forced culture or the church forced culture. Yeah. Again, I just keep coming back to observing this and saying, well, this is how humans behave with each other. It's a human quality. It's not and it finds its manifestation in how we talk about things in Bitcoin or in Ethereum or in crypto as a whole. And this is just humans. We're messy. We can't agree. We can't get along. Everybody wants to rule the world.
No, it makes perfect sense, mate.